Hello everyone and welcome to a slightly late episode of Better Together at Math with Shinrai Sensei. And today we're going to continue our geometry definitions and we're going to cover segments, rays, congruent, the midpoint of the segment, and a bisector of a segment, right? Now, the segments are a line, well, really technically it's a portion of line defined by its endpoints, right? So in this case, the segment is AB, and point C is on the line of AB because it continues past the point that you're referencing, C here. This is technically a line then that continues past. That's why it's represented here like that. But AB, line segment AB on its own wouldn't have the arrows on either end because it's defined by its endpoints. It's only in reference to C, where it continues beyond C, that you reference it as a line rather than a segment, right? So, line segment AB, and C is on line AB, right? Now, a ray is a line that goes off in one direction, right? Now, it's not as clear on here because the simple fact of the matter is a line is a ray going in two directions, right? It's two different rays being conjoined in opposite directions the rays are facing, right? So, technically speaking, if you want to look at a ray, all you have to do is look from the perspective of this this point here between the 2 points at the end, that is F, right? So the ray could be considered DE if I was to have this arrow cut off, right? But for our purposes here, really the only two rays that you can name would be FE and FD. And you want to start with F because F is the origination point, or the origin point, I should say, of the ray going in either direction, right? And so ray FE is the opposite of ray FD. And it's named by an endpoint and another point on the ray, right? So the endpoint here would be F, and the other point going in this direction is D, and the other point going in this direction is E, right? So ray FE is opposite of ray FD, right? Now, congruent. Two objects with the same size and shape are congruent. So if I had two dice to play, like two dice from a game of Yahtzee, or two jack cards from a deck of poker cards or something like that, so long as all of their measurements are the same, they are congruent, right? So in this case, segment GH is congruent, which is represented by an equal sign with an approximate sign written above it, right? So GH, line segment GH, is congruent to line segment IJ because both line segments are 3. Don't worry about the unit. It's just, 3 is being represented to show that they are the same, they are congruent, right? All right, so the midpoint of the segment is what a point that divides the segment into two congruent segments, right? So in this case, segment KM is defined with a midpoint of L, right? And either way, it's 2. So KL is congruent to LM because they both have a line segment length of 2. Once again, don't worry about the unit. All that matters is the units are going to be the same because they are congruent. All right? Now, a little bit smaller here on the bottom, so I'll try to stay out of the way so you guys can see it. We have the bisector of the segment, which is equivalent to a line, segment, ray, or plane that intersects at the segment's midpoint, right? Let me go ahead and draw a little line here to define where the definition ends, right? That way you guys can see that this is part of the example and not part of the definition, right? So, the bisector of the segment is a line, segment, or ray or plane that intersects at the segment midpoint, right? Now, segment NP is the example here, with O as the midpoint, and it's got a length of 4 on either side, so that O is the midpoint, right? And ray QR is a bisector because ray QR passes directly through point O, which is the bisector of the segment. All right? So, just some more definitions. So we can kind of start to understand the very foundational principles of geometry, and therefore we can build on those foundational principles and expand on those, right? Next week we'll start getting into angles, and I apologize for this episode being a little late. Had a few things to take care of today and didn't record it last night. So I'll try to start recording these ahead of time so that I can release these on a same time every Monday kind of thing. But I'm also going to be putting as the thumbnail to this video the board, but I'll also, stand off to the side for a few seconds so that you guys can take a screenshot of the page and crop it to just having the definitions and the drawn examples here. If you guys do want to have me rewrite this a little clearer, please, don't hesitate to let me know. I want to make sure you guys got this as clear as possible so that it's as useful to you as possible.